edition of After the Whistle. This special high school football preview show with the legendary John Hoffman. John, this is another year for you doing this, man. How's it feel entering a new year?
Depends how you spell legendary.
Yeah. So what you're 30 some odd years now?
Almost pushing 40.
Almost pushing 40. You've seen a lot of teams.
But who's counting?
Yeah, you've seen a lot of teams.
If you talk legendary, if you say old, then you probably get closer.
Yeah, so it's got to be some fun times for you. The football season is always a great time. And last year we had a great football season in the city. Now this year, new teams. So we're going to get right into it and look at some of the schools here and see what are their chances of going all the way this year. We're going to start off. Well, we had some games this weekend on Thursday and on Friday. Kip Academy and Lynn Tech faced off, both losses. But with those, let's start off with Lynn Tech. What do you think of that team coming into this year? They lost their quarterback. Obviously graduated. They lost some players on defense. So.
They lost quite a bit. They had to replace it with young kids. James Runner does a great job at Lynn Tech with his coaching staff. And the thing they lacking now is experience. Mm-hmm. They had outstanding. Not only was the quarterback last year, Barriosa, great quarterback. He was a great student. He was an exceptionally smart young man. So he made very good decisions, and it's hard to replace people like that. Mm-hmm. And you bring up somebody who hasn't played as much, and now you throw him into the fire, and along with running backs. Line. They had a tough opening game against Greater Lowell. They didn't score. They got close a couple of times, made a couple of mistakes, had a couple of errors, a couple of penalties, and that's what's happening with inexperienced teams, and they're going to have to fight their way through that. So it's only one game getting started, but they've got a lot to work on.
Yeah, in that game they had 4 total turnovers, 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions, a lot of penalties.
And the fumbles came at crucial times. They looked like they might be doing something, getting close, and the fumbles caused them to blow up.
Yeah, how do you see them faring in their conference, in the Commonwealth Conference?
It's not easy. You know, everybody thinks Commonwealth Conference, but you still got teams like Greater Lowell, Clever Lawrence, Shawsheen, who have large numbers. Mm-hmm. Everybody thinks Lynn Tech is a, technical institute, so they don't have that many students like Greater Lowell, Greater Lawrence, Shawsheen, and when you break it down, and you still have soccer players, and you have track players, mm-hmm. and there's a lot of distractions now for the young kids, and Lynn Tech has probably the most difficult time with their athletic programs, because they've got kids who they take shop one week, they take classes another week. Later on, they'll be going out, maybe working on their jobs out around the area. Mm-hmm. So it's difficult for them even to get to practice. So that makes it extremely difficult, as opposed to English or Classical step out their back door and they're ready to practice at 2:30, and they're dressed 3 o'clock. They're going full tilt. James Runner might be missing 1 or 2 players because they're working their job someplace, basketball, soccer, mm-hmm. Baseball, and that makes it really difficult on the coaching staff and the players as well.
Yeah, definitely. And with Lynn Tech, the past couple of years, they've lost a lot of great talent. The year before they lost 2 star running backs, and now you lose your star quarterbacks graduate and stuff. So it's hard replacing talent like that. Well,
it's hard when you have 2,000-yard runners in the backfield, mm-hmm. and they both graduate, and then you're going to come back. But last year they did it. They won some games. They made the playoffs. They had a pretty good year. James Ron did a very good job. But you can't do that every year. You keep mm-hmm. losing players like that, and eventually it catches up with you. I do the Everett football games on the station. Mm-hmm. They've been winning, going to Super Bowl. If they don't go to the Super Bowl, it's a losing season. Yeah. They got crushed in their first game against Springfield Tech, mm-hmm. and now people are wondering, and I say, eventually, it's got to happen. You can't keep getting Tom Brady's and Peyton Manning's every year. Yeah. Eventually you got to say, we got to start to rebuild again.
Mm-hmm. Let's look at Kip Academy. They had their first game Thursday night at Manning Field, and it was another not a good outing for them. It was a good day for them.
Well, they got shut out as well, and again, a difficult time. They've got classes that go a little bit longer. You know, it's a fairly new program that they're now getting into the Northeast, the Commonwealth Conference.
Yeah.
And you know, they picked it up a little bit, even in basketball, playing Classical at St. Mary's and Lynn Tech last year. Now they'll play Tech on Thanksgiving. Last year they'll start playing them every year on Thanksgiving, which is good with the two Lynn schools. But again, it's difficult for everyone, because when you got English, Classical, St. Mary's, Tech, KIP, you have 5 teams. I don't think there's anybody in the, never mind the state, in the country that has 5 high schools in the same city. And now you have to pick, this kid goes here, that kid goes there, and you know, they're bouncing around from here to there, and you know, it's extremely difficult to spread that talent out.
Yeah. So they're gonna have a lot of growing pains this season, just because new program and trying to get accustomed to building a tradition over there.
Yeah, plus you can't get everybody in, because it's almost like a lottery to get in the school. You can get people in, but you don't just get in because you're an athlete, or you don't get a scholarship to KIP because you can play football. You're going to earn your way in, and then they have to pick and choose from whatever they have in the school. So you know, they're not getting all the big name athletes from, you know, the programs working their way up, or kids coming in from other cities don't necessarily say, I'm going to come in like the young man from English that came from Salem. He's originally from Lynn. His family moved to Salem. They're coming back to Lynn. Great player. They don't get those players. They don't get those types of players. They go to either English, Classical, or St. Mary's.
All right. Speaking of St. Mary's, they are coming off a Super Bowl appearance last season. They lost some all-conference players, turnover happening. So what is the scale for them? What should we expect from them?
Well, you know, the coach did an excellent job last year, taking over from Matt Durgan, which was not an easy time. People thought, well, it's now going to be a rebuilding year, but they still had a few pretty good football players, and they managed to have a very good year, and they wound up going into the Super Bowl. That was not a great experience at the Super Bowl, but they played a very good team. But, you know, like I always say, and I said to some of the kids that day, I said, you know how many teams would like to be here at Gillette Stadium losing this game because they didn't get here? You know, hold your heads up walking out, because you got here, and other teams didn't. They would like to get here. So just the fact that they got to Gillette and had that experience last year is amazing. They have their quarterback back, but they lost outstanding running backs. They lost a very good receiver. They got a couple of linemen back, but it's going to be a rebuilding year for them. It's going to be a wait and see for them. I think a work in progress.
Yeah, I think having the quarterback back, that make it a little bit easier for the coaches, just because you know the quarterback knows the system.
Yeah, obviously, if you have the quarterback back, it makes it a lot easier, because you don't have to concentrate on as many players to get into the system, and of course the play starts with the quarterback. So if he's in line already, you can pay more attention to the people around him and get those ready, because you know he knows his job and he can handle that, and he can pitch when he has to pitch, keep when he has to pitch, fake throw when he has to throw, and he can almost be a coach on the field and say, you went this way, you're supposed to go that way, you know, this time make sure you go that way, and you know, so he can help the kids along as well as the coaches. So that's always an easy time for the team if you have your quarterback back experienced.
Yeah. Who in their conference is probably the top of the class in that conference?
Well, this year I would say Bishop Fenwick. The kid Fuentes was one of the better running backs anywhere last year, and he's back. He already started off. I think he got 3 touchdowns their first game. So Fenwick, and that little to-do last year with Fenwick and St. Mary's is going to cause some ill feelings, and now all those games become, you know, Super Bowl games, because even if you're not going to the Super Bowl, it's like English and Classical on Thanksgiving Day. We have to beat St. Mary's, or we have to beat Fenwick. And I think Fenwick will have a little bit of an edge this year. Just they've got that kid in the backfield, and they've got a few others as well. So it's a tough conference. I mean, Arlington Catholic is Spelman. You know, those teams are usually good.
All right. And do you see them making another run at the playoffs this season, or is it?
I think they have to get. You know, they've got a couple of games to get on their belt before they get into the conference. I think they have to work on those and try to build on that, and try to get ready because it's going to be baby steps. You know, and each game they play is going to be, let's take it one step further and let's keep trying to improve. And hopefully the first couple of games they can get a look and see what they have to improve on, what they have to adjust, and maybe get everybody on the same page. And I hope they do well, being the St. Mary's grad. But you know, but it's never easy. And sooner or later, you know, you make the Super Bowl, and you know, and now a rebuilding year. I think their goal right now is in the 7 games that they play is to win 4 or 5 and make the playoffs and not have to get into that dreaded, you know, I hate to call it the losers bracket, but the elimination bracket.
Yeah. And with them, because with Coach Durgan, they definitely made some runs at the Super Bowl. They won one with
They won a Super Bowl.
They won a Super Bowl with Coach Durgan. Now I believe they got back to
they won a Super Bowl with Coach Stellato. They made it a couple of times with Matt Durgan.
Okay, yeah.
He was wherever Matt Durgan went, he was a great coach, and he was a great gentleman, and he got virtually 200% out of his players because they loved him. He was one of the nicest people you'd ever get to know, and he treated everybody very fairly. I didn't care if it was his son playing quarterback. He treated everybody the same way, and I think he got a lot of respect for that. And those kids loved to play for him. And I think the coach that came over from Winthrop, his kids at Winthrop played hard for him, and I think the kids in St. Mary's will play hard for him too.
Yeah, definitely. I was at their practice. One of their off-season practices, and they definitely were working really hard out there in the heat. So yeah, we'll see what goes on with them. Hopefully they make another run at it, and we can go to Gillette again to watch them play.
That's for sure.
Yeah. All right, Lynn Classical. They had this wasn't. The game didn't count for them, but they played Catholic Memorial on Friday night, and 42-12 the final score. And now they got another tough opponent coming. They're playing another tough opponent Friday in Brockton. So this is a team that lost. They lost their quarterback. They lost a couple of captains. They lost their leading receiver. They lost a lot.
Well, this is the same thing we talk about. When you got a quarterback that throws for over 1,000 yards, you got a receiver that catches over 1,000 yards 2 years in a row. Now you take those 2 people out of the equation. Right away, you're taking a lot of offense away, and it's awful hard to replace people like that. Ridley was a great quarterback last year, throwing the ball extremely well. But that game you talked about, Catholic Memorial, this is the first year. This year is a very difficult year for coaches and players, and a very difficult year for officials. They changed, I don't know, I'm going to say a couple of hundred rules. They went from high school sports to college sports. So now the officials had to really hone up on all the changes going on. And this is the first year that it's happened in baseball, it happens in basketball. This is the first year it's happening in football, where you can have what they call an exclusionary game.
Yeah.
And what that is years ago, like Lynn Classical was in Division III basketball, Everett was in Division I. So Everett was trying to get their 20-game schedule, so they would play Classical once or twice. Classical they could, but they didn't have to count it because they were playing up a division. It counted for Everett. St. Mary's baseball plays St. John's Prep. They can count it or don't count it in each year. They play Malden Catholic. They can count it or don't count it because they're playing up a division or 2.
Okay.
What this was Catholic Memorial, I don't know why. Catholic Memorial made the Super Bowl last year.
This was the coach's first year. He transferred over from Everett.
Yeah, John DiBiaso.
Yeah.
He had a great year last year, went to the Super Bowl. they got everybody back. They could be the best team in the state this year. St. John's Prep will give them a little bit of a battle, but they could be the best. Now, for some unknown reason, they were supposed to play Pope John. Why they would play Pope John, I have no idea. Of course, Pope John closed. So now Pope John is off the map. They were supposed to scrimmage Classical the first week before the season started. Then they were going to play Pope John 4th or 5th week.
Okay.
Now, getting a game first week of the season, possibility. Getting a game 4th or 5th game in the season is almost an impossibility. So John DiBiaso contacted Brian Vaughn and said, I know we're supposed to scrimmage you. Can we play that as a game for us, because we're missing Pope John, we'll be losing the game. Okay. We'll only have 6 instead of 7. And that can cost you in the playoffs. You know, if you go 6-0, you could still be number 2 if somebody is 7-0. So, you know, or even if they're 6-1, they could get more points than you. So Brian Vaughn agreed to play the game to help Catholic Memorial. Brian Vaughn is one of the nicest people in the world. And with the idea that it didn't count for Classical. So Classical, now what you do now is you play 7 games, you know, before the playoffs. Then you figure how you do in the 7 games determines whether you make the playoffs or go into the non-playoffs. Brian Vaughn was 4-3 last year, and for some ungodly reason didn't make the playoffs. This year, Classical is going to play 8 games, because that is a game. Okay. But it's an exclusionary game, and it doesn't count.
Okay. Yeah. Well, kudos to them. It didn't count, because that was a tough one for them. But they're going up against a team that was in the Super Bowl, and then they're on the rebuild, a little bit of a rebuild. Now they're going up against Brockton.
Can you have a worse start than that?
Yeah. And Brockton is, I think, the top 10 team in the state. What do you see from Classical as far as quarterback-wise? How are they going to replace Ridley, and how are they going to Butler as well?
Well, they got a young man that didn't play quarterback last year and is now pressed in to being the quarterback. And you look and say, you can talk about lineman, defensive back. Quarterback is the toughest spot to play, because everything on offense, everything revolves around you. Everything starts with you, everything finishes with you, and if anything goes wrong, you're getting the blame. It doesn't make a difference if he drops the ball or he fumbles the ball. The quarterback's not playing well, so they're not playing well. So to bring a young man in virtually untested and to replace a couple of really good running backs, Butler's a great receiver out there. It's going to be a very tough year for Brian Vaughn and the Classical Rams.
Especially the Northeastern Conference. The conference is supposed to be loaded this year. I know Danvers, that was a tough team last year. Gloucester is always tough in that. And now we go to Lin English. Lin English was 8-3 last season, lost to Danvers in the postseason. You know, the year before they almost made it to the Super Bowl, losing to Tewksbury. So, and this team got a lot of talent and a lot of underclassmen. They have a few seniors, but a lot of their talent is juniors and sophomores.
You talking about English?
Yeah.
English, again, the question mark is going to be they're taking a wide receiver and putting him in a quarterback. Chris Carroll, who does a terrific job for Lin English and his coaching staff, they saw this coming. They had a quarterback who was exceptional, who not only was an outstanding offensive player, was an outstanding defensive player, a great team leader, and again, was one of the top students in the class. So a highly intelligent player as well. But I think, being the good coach that Chris Carroll is, he had an inkling this was coming. You know you're going to graduate kids. So last year when he had the opportunity, he had young Mr. Fowler step in and play quarterback. And he was able to throw the ball a bit, get his feet wet, get some work at quarterback. He was a very good receiver, as was Taj Purta. Those would be 2 kids that will lead them this year. And they have a very young team. They're still mostly underclassmen in the key spots. Fowler, Purta. they
added a kid from Salem.
I apologize. I forget the name of the young man from Salem.
Sam.
He lived in Lynn. I don't know if it's Furtado. He lived in Lynn. He moved and played for Salem. He was all conference last year. Ran for almost 1,000 yards, but was even better as a quarterback. He's a really big, strong, strapping kid. He moves back to Lynn. The rich get richer. They're going to have a very good team. He steps in. He's going to help offensively and defensively. And I see them at the meadow when I walk my dogs, and they look very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially they got some of the guys they're on the preseason state watch for top players in the state. Bringing back, especially when we talk about Matthias Fowler, he's taking over the quarterback helm. He was quite the slot receiver for them. His first 2 years for them, they used him in the slot. He also played.
He was the Edelman for English.
Yeah, played some running back as well. So how's his athleticism gonna play a role in the success?
Well, they're certainly happy they've got a very good athlete to step in, and like I said, they got his feet wet last year. He ran. He had a lot of play, considering there were games when they were ahead that they could put him in there and give him some playing time. And he got his feet wet, and now he's getting his official dunking this year with, being in and taking the snaps and being there. He looks very good in practice. He's throwing the ball well. And that's the big thing, You can be a decent quarterback handing the ball off. Mm-hmm. If you run that double wing setup and you just run, yeah. There's less for the quarterback to do. But when you go back on that shotgun and you're throwing the ball and trying to keep the defense honest, that's even more difficult for the quarterback. So you want somebody that can do both, that he can run with the ball, he can throw the ball. And Fowler, the family was traditionally an outstanding family, athletes in the family, and male and female, mm-hmm. He's going to do a good job, I think.
Yeah, and they lose receiver Prince Brown. They lost Prince, but having Taj Purdy helps as well because he was another good player for them.
Yeah, you don't want to lose Purdy and Brown at the same time. Mm-hmm. If you wipe out your receiving core, it doesn't make a difference if you have Brady coming back. You still have to have somebody to catch the ball. But having Purdy back and having a couple other kids that played last year that were able to catch the ball, and a couple of running backs that got some playing time, and it was nice that they went deep in the playoffs and they won some games. They were able to give some kids some playing time and get a little bit of experience. So when we talked about Classical, St. Mary's, and Tech not having a lot of experience, mm-hmm. Experience-wise in the city, you have to favor English experience-wise. They're not, they haven't been playing 4 years and a 4-year starter in all conference, but they've been playing here and there and getting their feet wet, getting experience, so they're not stepping in cold.
Mm-hmm. Now, what's that look? How do you see them faring in the Northeastern Conference? Do you think they match up with the likes of Danvers, with the likes of Gloucester, and all those other teams in the conference?
I think you can find out very quickly because they play Swampscott this Friday night. Mm-hmm. Swampscott has got one of the better quarterbacks around. He'll throw the ball 50 times a game, and he's got a couple of outstanding receivers. They got Dylan January in the backfield, back offensively and defensively. They're a very good team, and that's a very tough opening game for Lin English to start out with. And the yardstick comes out. Yeah. On Friday night against Swampscott.
And also there's that Lynn-Swampscott rivalry, Lin English and
That's
Swampscott.
Like English and Classical.
Yeah, that rivalry, those games are always tough battles between Lynn and Swampscott. They always go at it with each other.
Do you mean they don't like each other?
Yeah.
Right down, it's not a far drive. Everybody can get there in plenty of time. And they've done a nice job refurbishing the field, putting the turf in. And for the first time in a long time, it's going to be officially a night game Friday night at Blockshit's Field, because now they have lights there. They've played night games there, but they bring in temporary lights and set them up for one game. Now this is going to be full time. They can be able to play Friday. So Beverly will be the only team that in the conference that won't play night games under the lights.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely going to be quite the game for those teams. So overall, what should we expect from this football season? Because the football season the past couple of years, that every team has been competitive. It's all the games been competitive. The schools have been competitive in their games. So what should we all see? What's the outlook for this upcoming football season?
Well, you look at the Northeastern Conference, or look at any conference. The coaches have been around. I mean, the coaches for English, Classical, Tech, St. Mary's, with the exception of Kip, because they're fairly new. You take those 4 Lynn coaches, and they know the conference. They know the other coaches. They know virtually what to expect when they come in. They know basically the type of offense they're going to run. That doesn't mean that they're going to be able to stop it, and it's easy to stop, but they have an idea during the week leading up to the game. Like, they know that English knows Swampscott's going to throw the ball quite a bit this week, so they're going to concentrate on, covering the receivers, trying to get to the quarterback. They're not going to totally disregard the run, but they know that they're going to be passing. So when you have, it helps to know the league that you're in, the coaches that you're playing against, and you know them, and you become friendly with them. You talk to them before the game, and you become friends with them. So that coming in, basically what they're going to do. The thing that drives people up a wall is if all of a sudden you bring in a brand new coach, say at Arlington Catholic or Spelman, and all of a sudden they're running double wing instead of going with spread, or they run a wildcat, or and you say, wait a minute, what's that? We weren't expecting that. We didn't think you were going to do that. Yeah. But when you know the league and you have an idea of what the team is going to try and do against you, then, and of course the other team has the same asset, then you at least can work on it during the week and be prepared and help your team out.
Yeah, definitely. And for you, how many games you hoping to you calling all of them this year?
Well, we'll get there. We'll get to know the kids. I say all the time, I wish everybody could get to know the kids the way I know them. Yeah. Because when I hang around these kids, and I don't just know the outstanding players, the kids run for 1,000 yards or catch 1,000 yards, like Butler last year, or Ridley throwing. I know the entire Ridley family. I know the linemen. I call them the grunts. Yeah. They're the guys that knock people down and get knocked down, and and the defenders in hockey and the defenders in soccer, and the catcher who catches all the pitches but doesn't get his name in the paper because he's not a big hitter. Yeah. I get to know all the secondary kids, along with all the great players, and I wish everybody could get to know them the way I do, because they are just absolutely tremendous young men and women, and it's a pleasure to be around them, and the coaches are great with them, and I see them all the time, whether it's in the schools, out in the street, at the park, at the games. They always come over. They're very respectful. They always say, "Hi, Mr. Hoffman." I shake their hands. I talk to them, and it's been an outstanding run. I keep telling my wife, "Don't pinch me. I don't want to wake up and find out this is all a dream."
All right, and just like that, John, we've run out of time. Thank you. Thank you for coming in, doing this preview show. We'll definitely have you back here sometime towards the end of the season to see how everybody's fared. But good luck on the season. You guys catch a new episode Wednesday, brand new episode Wednesday. This is gonna go up today, but brand new episode Wednesday. John Hoffman, Mukala Kabongo. Have a great day.
Thank you.